Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome AMO President and Mayor, Town of Parry Sound, Jamie McGarvey.
Good morning and welcome. Bonjour, Annie Bozu. It's a pleasure to provide you with an update on AMO's efforts to represent Ontario's municipal governments. What you see here over 3 days is a snapshot of the role that your association serves every day. People are enjoying summer. The legislature will not be back in session until the fall. Things appear to be relatively quiet. However, looks can be deceiving. The spring budget has kept us busy. It laid out a plan for cuts, including some for 2019. The government has agreed not to do those cuts, and this has left questions about future years. The spring budget also referenced a significant number of policy reviews: aggregates, ambulances, and animal welfare, policing, and public health, social assistance reform, and the list goes on. They are reviewing joint and several liability, and that's good. Our insurance burden needs to be more balanced, practical, and fair, and we are working on that. Other reviews have raised significant concerns, such as the restructuring of public health. We're working on that as well. As quiet as the summer may seem, AMO has been busy day in and day out, and things are happening. Last week, we received news about cannabis funding and the Blue Box program. For years, AMO's been promoting greater producer responsibility for waste management. If you want to reduce waste, improve packaging, and assign costs fairly, transfer the cost and responsibility over to the people who can change the packaging. Move it from the taxpayers over to the waste producers and consumers. The Ontario government will do just that over the next 6 years. Doing the right thing on waste will also reduce municipal costs by about $130 million annually. This gives us space to work on organics. We certainly did not get here overnight or by accident, and AMO can make that walk to Queen's Park blindfolded, and we walk it every day, working hard for members and securing important changes like this. Meanwhile, our LAS Business Services arm create opportunities and build solutions. Insurance risks like ransomware attacks are a hot topic, and LAS is doing more than just bringing us good information and best practices. It's working with cyber experts and insurers to create practical tools for you. Tools that will help protect your municipal governments and keep services running if you're hit. And that, to their string of successful programs and initiatives like energy savings, smarter and more affordable lighting for rinks and recreation centers, and better returns on your investments through one investment. AMO also administers the federal gas tax program in Ontario. In July, AMO distributed $970 million worth of federal infrastructure funding. That number includes the one-time doubling of the fund for 2019, and we got that money into your hands quickly. Efficient administration has saved you $12 million. That's $12 million is going back to you to build more and achieve more. And in November, we will distribute the remaining 2019 allocation. Staff at AMO and LAS do great things for us, and it is appreciated. Please join me in thanking them with a round of applause. I also want to thank my fellow board members, and if they could just stand up, please, so that everyone can see who you are, and give them a round of applause as well. This board works hard to serve you. Service on AMO's board requires time and effort, especially when our province is so large and so diverse. The board's broad range of perspectives makes us stronger. We are all different, but we work well together. We speak and listen respectfully. We look for solutions that bridge differences. And we work together to serve all our members and communities well. As surprising as that may sound, it's not surprising. To those of us who have been around the municipal council chambers for many years, I'm merely describing how municipal councils operate when they're operating at their best. AMO is as strong as you make us. Your ideas, your opinions are important to us. For 120 years, AMO's been working to advance goals, solve problems, provide services, and create opportunities. And AMO is proud to serve Ontario's municipal governments, and we are proud of what municipal governments do. Municipal governments provide most of the frontline public services that the people of Ontario use most often, and we provide them on tight budgets. By necessity, we value innovation, efficiency, collaboration, teamwork, problem solving, and practical common sense. That's why we're all here. This is more than a municipal conference. Our provincial and federal peers are here as well to work with us. And I'm pleased to say that we're building stronger connections with Indigenous partners. Everyone is welcome here, and we appreciate everyone who believes in being here. Tout le monde est bienvenu, alors nous apprécions tous qui pensent qu'ils devront être ici. We are all here to serve the people of Ontario to the best of our ability. And we serve Ontario best when we all work well together. In a few moments, I will introduce Premier Ford, and it's important that he is here along with all of his cabinet. They will host as many as 600 delegation meetings, and this all speaks to the importance of our relationships and the complexity of our connections. We both face challenges, and AMO believes we should face them openly and work together, because we serve the same taxpayer, the same constituents, and the same communities. It's fair to say that solutions to these challenges will have a common set of ingredients. Those ingredients are time, money, innovation, and cooperation. Successful change always has these ingredients. We understand the province has some fundamental goals: more efficient government services, greater respect for Ontario's taxpayers, and fiscal sustainability. We know these goals. Same taxpayer, same constituents, same communities. We cannot achieve these things with abrupt unilateral changes, and it will take more than simple belt tightening to make things better. Working together, we can avoid unnecessary turmoil and respect the essential frontline services that our governments deliver. We can get to places We both want to go, but it will take investments in time, money, innovation, and cooperation, as it always does. To be frank, I believe that greater cooperation with Ontario's municipal governments can help the Ontario government to achieve more, and we are worth talking to. If the goal is saving money, improving services for people, and showing greater respect for taxpayers, we wouldn't start with public health or paramedic services. Municipalities collect the smallest share of tax revenue, and we have the weakest legislative authority. It stands to reason that we have done a good job of finding efficiencies in areas where we have some control. Paramedic services are loaded with innovations and efficiencies, and it stands to reason that opportunities for improvement can be found in areas where municipal government's hands are tied. Working together in true partnership, we would serve people better and make better use of tax dollars. In a meeting with the Premier earlier this month, I pointed out the role that the Treasury Board serves in the Ontario government. Simply put, Treasury Board looks at the big picture to keep the Ontario government on budget. It makes sure that all the little decisions made by ministries are manageable in the short term and fiscally sustainable in the long term. And that makes sense. They should approach impacts on municipal government with the same due diligence. Someone in the provincial government should have a clear mandate to make sure that ministry decisions are within our means. For years, we've been sounding the alarm over cumulative impacts with steady flow of changes coming out of one ministry after another. And usually, we have to make do with less. Deliver more, or follow a new process that's more expensive. 23 ministries make decisions that affect us. Treasury Board makes sure their decisions respect the Ontario government's budget. Someone should make sure they respect the municipal budgets and our fiscal sustainability. So let's improve services together. Let's do a good job of respecting the taxpayers. The province needs to proceed carefully, and it needs to be willing to change. It needs to be willing to invest money where money is needed, and yes, that may require us to reduce some spending somewhere else. Working together, we can identify practical changes that reduce spending. Give us time to innovate, so let's approach things differently, work with us in strong collaboration, recognize the frustration is not opposition to change. In my meeting with Premier Ford this month, and again in many meetings with ministries over the past few months, I've emphasized our interest in good government, fiscal sustainability, and quality services. I emphasize that municipal governments are an effective partner. And much has been said about the fact that Minister Clark is a former mayor and former AMO president, but I tell you, it is helpful. He is accessible and committed, and our discussions are meaningful. AMO is committed to maintaining strong channels of communication between our two orders of government. Our association exists in large part to make sure that we always have quality conversations. We will always approach our relationship in that way, and AMO is not an organization that fights Queen's Park from the front lawn. AMO sits at a shared table and speaks respectfully, face to face. That's the spirit of this conference, whether it's discussion in the hallways, the Ministers' Forum, or in hundreds of delegation meetings. Last August, when Premier Ford was introduced, the comment was made that the new government wasted no time in getting down to business. In hindsight, maybe it was a bit of an understatement given the pace and scope of the change so far in 2019. It was also one of his first appearances as Premier, and we appreciate that he placed a priority on addressing AMO delegates. In meeting with the Premier, we spoke about some of the thoughts that I just covered. We spoke about the need to look at the big picture and to ensure that his government is paying attention to how its decisions impact municipal budgets. We talked about ways to monitor and manage cumulative impacts on municipal government related to costs, mandates, and reporting requirements. We spoke about the long-standing efforts to draw attention to these concerns with every previous provincial government. I told him that we need the former municipal councillor who understands the unnecessary frustrations, and we need a premier who will fix them. We also talked about how he needs our ideas and our solutions, and how we can better set the provincial municipal table going forward. Lastly, we talked about how intently people would be listening to what he and his ministers had to say at the AMO conference. And I know I will be listening intently. Before we welcome the Premier onto our stage, I just want to say that it's an honor, and I'm very proud to serve you as President. Thank you. So, thank you, merci, chi miigwech, and ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario.
How you doing, everyone? Right. Well, first of all, thank you, Jamie, for that introduction. And we did have a really good meeting when you came by, and I remember telling the group, and I know a few of you were there, and I said, aren't we feeding the local mayors? And they said, there's been a cut on some food, so I had to go out and buy pizza. So I hope you enjoyed the pizza there. And I see one of my favorite former mayors, Hazel, how are you? Absolute champion, great friend. My friends, I'm so happy to be here today, and I want to thank Jamie McGarvey and the entire AMO leadership for all the hard work that went into this year's conference. It's a tremendous amount of work, and I want to thank you. I want a special thank you to Mayor Jim Watson. Jim, where are you here? There you are, right there. Jim, thank you. And I want to thank your whole council for hosting this in your absolute beautiful city of Ottawa. I also want to recognize my outstanding ministers, especially Minister Clark, absolute champion for all the work that you've done. You know, Steve Clark's special. He's really special. He gets it. He gets what municipalities need. And again, I know you've worked day in and day out. We call him Clarky. Clarky, you've worked day in and day out. And I'm so proud of you and our entire team. We have the whole team here today. We have all the ministers. We have all the caucus members. And all combined, our team here is having, these are pretty staggering numbers here, 900 meetings over the course of this conference. I've always said, and I said it when we met with the leadership of AMO, and Steve, you were there, I'm a true believer in empowering municipalities. Get Queen's Park out of the way. Remember, and I'll say this later in the speech, I was a municipal councillor. And I used to have some real choice words about Queen's Park, and I did. And so I've walked a mile in your shoes. We believe in building a better province that actually starts with investing in its people. We need to help them, not with top-down approaches directed by Queen's Park, as I just said, but from the ground up. From the ground up, and that's why our government is committed to building strong local partnerships with our municipalities. And that, and that starts with working with the municipalities to make historic, strategic, and local investments in our schools, our hospitals, transit, highways, and other critical infrastructure. Over the next 10 years, our government plans to invest, this is a record, $144 billion in local projects across this province. That's $144 billion. That includes over $90 billion alone in public transit and provincial highways to get people moving from point A to point B. We've nominated 350 projects to the federal government for key investment in transit, schools, and hospitals, including 201 transit projects outside, I repeat this, outside of the GTHA, as well as 144 road and bridge projects for rural and northern Ontario communities. We love the North. Our 10-year capital plan also includes $17 billion to build and renovate our hospitals. Hospitals are the backbone of our communities. We're investing $13 billion to build new schools and $1.4 billion to fix existing ones. And finally, we're investing $315 million to improve and expand internet and cell service into more rural and remote communities to connect them to the world. And Steve, when I went around, that was just a big win for municipalities being connected to the world, and we're going to continue doing that. That is so, so important. I'm really excited to be the first one to tell you today, right here on this stage, on September the 3rd, we will be opening up the intake for the community, cultural, and recreation streams for the federal ICIP program. My friends, take advantage of it. Take advantage of it, because I'm a big, big believer in community centers, hockey arenas, cultural centers. Again, I say the hospitals are the backbone of our healthcare in communities, but that's the backbone of communities when you're able to go to a community center. This represents $1 billion for important local projects like community centers, sports arenas, and cultural centers. We're giving you the time to prepare, and we're really looking forward to receiving your applications in September. That's what we mean by investing from the ground up. That's what we mean by investing in people. Which leads me to the reason why our government believes these investments in our local communities are absolutely critical. You know me, I believe in honest conversations. It's no secret that the province inherited a massive, massive debt, a massive deficit from the previous government. But not only did we inherit a massive deficit, we also inherited broken systems. Hallway healthcare, schools literally falling apart, overcrowded buses, students falling behind and failing math and social services, literally on life support. And that's why I say we have to work collaboratively together, and we need to do a better job, which we're doing by communicating and partnering. When I was at Cabinet the other day, I said the number one issue, and we're doing a lot better job at doing this, is We want to make sure we communicate. We work hand in hand with every single community and make sure we listen. That's an absolute priority. We can't continue throwing money at the problem as our predecessors did into top-down, big government schemes. That is neither compassionate or sustainable. Instead, we're going to work to build Ontario's future together. Municipalities know how to make every dollar count because you know where it's needed most. Not a bunch of bureaucracy out at Queen's Park. You folks live it day in and day out. You know where the bridges need to be fixed, you know where the roads, you know where the schools, you need the hospitals. Each and every one of you understand it. The solution is giving municipalities the tools and supports they need to have more flexibility with their own budgets. Finding savings, driving efficiencies, and modernizing service delivery. And with technology now, there's so much we can do in modernizing. Our government established an audit and accountability fund earlier this year. And I am so excited to learn that 90% of you have taken us up on our offer for funding for line-by-line reviews. We did it when I was a councillor at the City of Toronto. We did it at the province. And again, I am so grateful for each and every one of you that took us up on our offer. Because we also offered this to the school boards as well. But only 2 out of 72 school boards took us up on it. It's very, very disappointing. This $7 million fund is an investment to help school boards and large municipalities protect core public services for the future generations. Our government also set up the Municipal Modernization Fund. That's $200 million to help 405 small and rural municipalities achieve efficiencies and plan for their future. We recognize our government moved quickly when we came into office to address our inherited challenges. But my friends, we're listening to you. Today, I'm so excited to announce this to this room that we're providing transitional funding for your budgeting process in 2020 to help our municipal partners pursue greater fiscal sustainability and protect the future of public services. So you can continue to deliver important services people rely on every single day, including public health and childcare. And we're increasing funding for land ambulance services by nearly 4% this year, and it will continue to increase to 2020. There will also be no changes to the structure of the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund for 2020 to provide you with greater flexibility. So that's just step one. Giving our municipal partners more flexibility with their budgets and ensuring you can deliver value for the taxpayers, because, as you hear over and over again, there's only one taxpayer. But it's also important to ensure the province is not getting in the way of your success. As I always say, get the province out of the way, help them with the funding, but again, give them ownership. Red tape and too many regulations stand in the way of local communities, focusing on things that matter most. The frontline services people rely on every single day. We're tackling the mountain of annual provincial reporting requirements that you have to face. And Clarkie, you said, I couldn't believe these numbers actually, and I should have known them. Over 400 to be exact. 400 from 16 different ministries. That's just a mound of red tape. Through the top-notch work that Minister Clark did, we've identified 94 reports to be eliminated totally, and 27 reports to be consolidated and simplified. That's just making life a lot more easier for our municipalities. We gave you back your voice when it comes to hosting renewable energy projects. Our government scrapped that awful Green Energy Act, one of the worst pieces of legislation ever that stripped local communities of your voice in these planning decisions. All of a sudden they wake up and there's 100 windmills in the backyard there. And that was absolutely ridiculous. Reducing red tape is also a big part of our housing supply action plan. That is one of my favorites. I got to tell you, just imagine, this is one of my favorites. We eliminated a rule that required environmental assessment before municipalities could plow their own streets. The people at home are sitting thinking, you really have to have an environmental assessment before you can plow your own streets? I've crisscrossed this province, my friends, every corner of this province, and I've come to know so many of you who are absolute champions for your communities and your constituents. We've been working with Mayor Scarpitti, Barrow, and Bevilacqua in York Region to help them bring better subway service to the people they serve. We've worked with Mayors Holder and Preston in London and St. Thomas to get people moving through the rapid bus transit projects. I've joined Mayor Brian Saunderson in Collingwood for the Elvis Fest. I had a great time, by the way, Mayor, in Collingwood. That was a great event. And with Mayor Graydon Smith in Bracebridge, Mayor Phil Harding of Muskoka Lakes, and Mayor Scott Atchison in Huntsville when we had that terrible, terrible flooding. Through it all, I've seen how our mayors are deeply, deeply passionate about working for the people. And we have our own champions on our team who've served municipally. Minister Steve Clark, mayor for how many years, Clarkie? 9 years. Minister Vic Fideli, the mayor, there you are right there, Vic. The mayor of North Bay, Minister Monty McNaughton and Doug Downey, both former municipal councillors. And there are many others on our team who have been in your shoes and who have worked to leave their communities better than they found them. As I said earlier on, I was a Toronto City Councillor for 4 years myself. I was on the budget looking line by line, just like each and every one of you. I'll never forget the day I walked in the office with my brother Rob. I'll never forget this. You think we're under pressure here. And sat down with Joe Penichetti, city manager at the time. Matter of fact, he was a phenomenal city manager. And Cam Weldon, the CFO. And I was new. I came from the private sector, and I sat down, and they said, well, gentlemen, very first day they said this to us. We're facing $774 million of pressure going into this year. You're going to either have to raise taxes 20%, or you got to start driving efficiencies. Well, my friends, we drove efficiencies. We increased services. We looked at lean practices. In our first year, going from $774 million, we delivered a 0% tax increase. I understand, and it's not easy, believe me, so I fully understand where you're coming from. We need to put local communities back in the driver's seat of their own affairs. And again, you hear me repeating it, get Queen's Park out of the way. This is all part of ongoing conversations between our governments, led by Minister Clark and our municipal partners. I encourage you to keep the conversations going. We're 100% committed to taking an active role to support you so you can continue to do what you do best, put the people first. I want to thank you for joining us this morning. Have a wonderful conference, and God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please all give the Premier a big round of applause again. Thank you very much.
And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage AMO's Secretary-Treasurer, Trevor Wilcox.
Hello, everyone. Before you leave the room, I would like you to join us with a special part of this presentation.